Paranomalies podcast would like to thank Twinkle Twinkle Little Store, located in Cheyenne, Wyoming, for sponsoring our show. All right. Good evening, Aaron.
Good evening. How are you tonight?
Oh, cold. Not used to the
Yeah.
snow yet.
Yeah, I think it's 36 degrees right now and snowing, and I am not happy about it.
Yeah, I am not either. I actually went and bought a beanie because I misplaced all mine, and I was with this. Yeah, way too cold.
Just let it grow.
I can't.
All right. Tonight we have Jill Shelley on the show. Jill is part of the St. Croix Paranormal Investigation Group, and she owns the Boyde House in Boyde, Minnesota, and the, I hope I get the year right, 1861 Masonic Lodge in Illinois.
Yep.
I believe.
Yep.
Yeah.
Looks like Keithsburg, Illinois.
Nice. We will bring her in. Hi, Jill.
Hey, Jason, Aaron. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Jill.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Let's we were just talking before we came in that it's starting to get cold over you where you are, but we actually have snow, and the elevation difference makes quite a bit. We're 6,500 feet.
Yeah, I'm not, like I said, we were saying earlier, I'm not looking forward to the snow. You know, last year we had nothing. We had zero snow. So that was kind of nice. But
I could go for that. I want to be somewhere where it's warm all the time. Definitely
Yes.
not Wyoming.
No, just warm and get to ghost hunt all year. Yeah,
there you go.
that's the dream.
So let's start out talking a little bit about the group that you are part of, the St. Croix Paranormal. St. Croix Paranormal
Yeah, it's just
Group.
it's just St. Croix Paranormal.
Okay.
Yeah, we started back in 2010. You know, I ended up working with a guy that was into ghosts, and the more we got to chatting, then we just decided to start a team. And you know, in that year, we met like 3 or 4 other people who were really passionate about the paranormal, like I was, and so we formed our team, St. Croix Paranormal. We started out just doing your local homes, businesses, that type of thing. And then eventually we thought, hey, let's just go to some of these well-known haunted locations because that would be fun. So then we kind of started doing that. So we did that for several years. And then with the advent of that, that's how I got the idea of getting my own locations.
So while you were doing that with them, what were some of the well-known locations that you investigated?
Well, our very first place we chose was Villisca Axe Murder House.
So
that's a good one.
Right in.
Yeah. So, you know, it was pretty freaky because, you know, when you just do like private homes and businesses, that's like a whole different ball of wax than going to these well-known haunted locations. So I will tell you, I was completely freaked out and just scared. I was scared just because of the history and everything. We were getting like they were throwing little pebbles, you know, like they had the old fashioned floor grates, you know, and these little pebbles would come from upstairs and drop down into the living room. And so we were getting that. We had a couple REM pod hits, and it was just, I don't know, it's just the overall creepy feel of everything that just happened there. It was just, yeah, I was like, we had our air mattresses on the floor, and I faced my girlfriend, Krista, and I'm like, do not turn away from me all night.
Yeah,
so that was fun, but you know, we've done like Melbourne Manor, Waverly Hills. Gosh, we've done the Peoria Asylum, which unfortunately is no longer there. That was a really good place. Let me look at my wall to see where else I've been. We did Bobby Mackey's.
Oh, nice.
Glen Beulah School, Thornhaven Manor, which I don't believe is around. The YMCA. You know, after like 10 years, you kind of forget everywhere where you've been, you know. Just the ones that really stand out. Whispers Estates, Mitchell, Indiana, Randolph Infirmary. Boy, the list just goes on and on.
Wow, so you do a lot of traveling for it. That's good.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, the farthest we went, you know, when we first started out, we maybe went to Indiana. So for us, that's probably like 10 hours. And I was like, oh, terrible drive. If I ever tell you guys we're going to go farther than 10 hours, you just tell me no. Next thing you know, I'm like, so there's a place in Ohio. And so we made a couple trips out there. So Yeah,
We
just a
just
lot of fun.
we just did 10 hours to Kansas, and that was
Okay.
our first big go-to place. And yeah, like, okay.
Where,
First
where, where'd
year,
you go
you know,
there?
uh, we really can't say because we're getting ready to drop the second episode on Paraflex.
Oh, okay. All right. Never mind then. Just curious if I'd been there.
Yep. Got to stay mysterious with it for a little while
We'll tell you
longer.
when we get out of here, but yeah, it's newer.
Okay.
So yeah. So yeah, we recently signed with Paraflex since
Okay.
that came up.
Congratulations.
And one of our local places was our first episode, Nelson Museum of the West. And then
Okay.
yeah, that 10 and a half hour drive will be our second one that we hope to get out in the next couple of weeks. So of all those places, which is your favorite?
Well, one I didn't mention, which is crazy because would be Edinburgh Manor. That we've been to like 3 or 4 times, and I love that place. It's just activity, no matter when you go, crazy off the hook stuff, a lot of equipment, excellent EVPs. It's just a super fun place. It used to be like a poor farm and an asylum, so there's just a lot of history there.
Right on. So doing that, then you decided that you wanted to buy a place?
Yeah, I just kind of wanted a place, where people can come and investigate, and a place I could go investigate. But when I bought it, I didn't realize how much work was involved, so I really didn't get to investigate as much as I'd like to. But yeah, so financially in 2018, I was able to move forward and go ahead. I just kind of, nobody advertises my house is haunted, so I was just kind of going off my gut instinct, looking on the MLS and such. And my realtor knew what I was, what I wanted it for, because we would do many investigations. Because I went and looked at a couple other places, even a church, and just kind of decided when I saw the Boyde house. I just immediately fell in love with it. And I just had this really strong attachment to it. I knew this was it. This is the house. And, then we went down, we took a look at it. She was running a little behind the realtor. So just sitting outside with my teammate, Donna, and all of a sudden I just kind of went, kind of feel like somebody's looking at you. And she's like, yeah, through the attic. That was like her thing. And then when we went in there, it kind of felt like there was something there, but not getting real close. But we did have a REM pod go off, and probably about 20 minutes after being there, a couple things on the spirit box, and one was a woman saying, "Who are you?" Which makes sense because actually the house had been vacant for almost a year before anybody had purchased the house. And then just kind of, I was like, well, I checked with a psychic medium that I really trust, and she told me a bunch of stuff about the house that eventually, as I owned it, things fell through came through that was true of what she said. And then I thought, well, you know what? I'm just going to reach out to some previous owners and see what they like. Have they had any experiences? And they did. So with that, I kind of moved forward with the purchase, and just got to know the spirits. It was a little slow going at first because nobody really had communicated with these spirits before. And so it took me a little bit to kind of coax them out to do things, to learn how to use the equipment. Because if you think about it, when you go to these well-known haunted locations, these spirits have been exposed to a lot. So they learn what things are. They learn what things are. But I'm coming into a brand new home that has no clue. Nobody's ever talked to them before. Nobody's interacted. So yeah, so here we are. I'm teaching them that. And I think one of the final things, it was like, I was getting a little, I wouldn't say frustrated, but I wasn't really getting a lot of interaction. And I thought, oh, did I make a mistake? But I was sitting in what I have the boys' room today, and I had like a little REM bear. And I was just kind of saying, you guys, if you want to have people give you gifts and things like that, all kinds of people come and give you stuff. You just got to touch something. We just got to know that you're there. And then that night, that bear went on and off for about 2 hours. And yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So ever
They're
since,
like, all right, yep, I want some stuff.
oh man, let me tell you, they make out like a bandit. Not only do I buy them stuff all the time, people bring them presents. So they are doing
Nice.
really well.
Yeah, we have a location that we investigate a lot. It's a lodge, a fraternal order here in Cheyenne, and
Okay.
yeah, we've got the the pile of presents that people have brought one of the spirits there too. So I love it.
Oh yeah, I always say I'm the only person who shops for dead people. Like,
Right?
we go to the antique shops. I'm like, the kids would love this. Fred and Minnie would love this. It's like,
So the Eckert family built the house or owned the house?
they own the house. So the house was built in 1901, and the Eckharts moved in 1912. So they're the most predominant family that we have, and there's the picture of Fred and Minnie there. So he owned one of the stores in town. So he was more of a high ends goods store. So they had like furs and shoes and fancy things. They made their own bologna. They sold some high end food items as well. But he was also the justice of the peace in town. He was on the school board, and his dad and his brother helped build the Lutheran church. So very, very well invested into the town. So, and I think that's one reason why Fred stays around, just because there is such an attachment to the house, to the town. And yeah, he was really, we've learned a lot of stuff about him. He really was a good man. He also owned a lot of the farms in town, outside of town. So he was very well involved with the community. So him and Minnie both passed away in the home. And Minnie's funeral was actually held, and we have in the house the 3 bay windows, like they did the viewing. And she was there in the house for 3 days. 2 of their children also passed away in the home, one in infancy, and then one had choked to death when he was about 2 or 3. So we do get some child activity, but we also get a lot of activity that doesn't correlate to anything I have on my deed. So I don't know where some of these people have come from or why they stay. We have a couple of adolescent-y type kids that are there, and I don't know why, but we've had several psychics say they just like your house. So it's like,
interesting.
Yeah.
So
Maybe
yeah,
maybe they hear people in there just talking and they stop in to see what's going on.
right. Well, and it could be that too. I mean, we have, the railroad tracks right behind us, so we get a lot of.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
So I think just doing what we do in the house with the investigating. We've also purchased a lot of supposed haunted objects. We have a lot of old antiques in the house because I brought it back to the 1900s as best I can. So there's just kind of a lot of energy in the house, really.
Yeah, it looks like a beautiful place.
Yeah, we did a lot of work, a lot of restorations. What I thought was funny is because, I've never done wallpaper a day in my life, right? I don't know. I YouTubed it. I don't know how to do it. So like that picture there, and that's actually the room that the spirits had talked, but I had met with a psychic who does things, and I said, boy, I wish I could get a read on my house. And then he just kind of locked into my eyes and just started talking about the house. And he was talking about stuff that nobody would absolutely have any clue or anything about it. I had just recently bought it. There wasn't a lot of information about the house. So he was telling me really personal things about the house. And I never told him we were renovating or doing anything. And he just started laughing. And I said, what? And he goes, somebody there was wallpapering and didn't know what they were doing. And the spirits thought it was really funny. Which, because like I said, we've never done it. My husband and I argued over it. We even put one piece upside down to start with. And I'm just, so it was just a whole thing. So for him to even come and say that was just, crazy.
Yeah, hit right on it.
Oh, for sure.
So do you get interaction from the Eckharts?
Yeah, we definitely, I never really we have a woman and we get her voice a lot. She's really kind of talks like this. She's really, like she smoked 100 cigarettes. So we get her voice a lot, but she never will tell me her name. I feel like it's Minnie. But Fred, we do get a lot of, Fred's coming. I'm Fred, that kind of thing. So we know Fred definitely is part in the house. But we also get a name Henry quite often. I don't know where he comes from. Again, my deed doesn't correlate, but that doesn't mean anything. I mean, this land back in, this was owned by the railroad in the 1800s. The whole land was, before it was bought by somebody and plotted out and put a town up. But the town also was butted up against the Sioux Dakota reservation line back in the day. So
Okay.
literally the town's here and here's the end of the reservation line. Like they were really butted up. So there was some stuff that happened back in the day. You're just not going to find any history on, who died
Right.
on the land and that kind of stuff. So just a lot of really cool history. And I know a lot of other places, in town probably are haunted as well, just because of just the history itself.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
going through the rooms section on the at the Boyd house, and yeah, you've done a really good job, breaking it up, and showing what type of activity happens in each part of the house.
Yeah, I don't think there's a room I haven't gotten something in at some point. So I can never say that, one room is more active than the other. I think it just depends on the day and the energy of the spirit levels that we have. Now I know at the top of the stairs, a lot of people get a lot of energy. We'll get a lot of REM pod hits at the bottom of the stairs. My husband actually saw an apparition on the stairs, which I was completely jealous because I've never seen one. So, but yeah, he said he was coming in the front door. He was carrying a box. He looked up and he saw her standing there. He said, for a second, I thought it was you because she had the same like length hair and kind of similar color, brown. He goes, but then I looked away and then I looked back and she was gone. And I realized that never was you.
Wow.
So yeah, he got to see one. We've had a paranormal team catch two shadows in the kitchen, and it was like one right after the other, and in total human shape, like they just zipped by real fast. Not real big, like I say. I feel like they were the adolescent kids because they looked more like somebody who'd be like maybe like 8 and 11, something like around that age. I know how the house is shaped and where it sits and how it would happen. So there's absolutely no way it's headlights, just from the way there's not even a window there. So I don't, there's no way that shadow would have showed up like that. So, so, yeah, they've seen that. My team members have seen shadow figures at the house. I've audibly heard voices, at the house. I think one of my favorite, stories with the audible voices is I was cleaning in one room by the stairwell, and Teresa, she was in the kitchen. She was cleaning and organizing and whatever. And we had given Minnie a fern because we heard that was her favorite plant. So, we have a plastic fern, and I was picking it up to dust under it. And as I did that, I heard this electronic-y voice. It said two things, couldn't quite make out what it said. And, this all happened in split seconds. And I thought it was, for a split second, I thought, did Teresa just turn on the spirit box? That's what it sounded like for a second. And then seconds later, she goes, what'd you say? And I said, I didn't say anything. She's like, well, I thought you said leave it. And I said, no, but I was picking up her plant. So
Yeah, she wanted you to leave it there.
she did, but yeah, even the EVPs we get are just so correlating, to what's going on. I mean, we were carrying a bunch of stuff at Christmas time, going down the steps. We both had our arms full, and when I'm there, even though if I'm not investigating actively, I usually have a voice recorder running or something because you just never know when you're going to get something.
Yep.
And as we're coming down the stairs, we get a man's voice that says, "Watch your step."
Oh wow.
So, the EVPs we get are actually correlation with what is going on. It's just not, just whatever. So it's pretty fun.
So very intelligent haunting in that location.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, the EVPs are good. In fact, even one time we were running the spirit box, which for me is one of my favorite pieces of equipment. Just because I love the science, the theory, the Estes method, all that. Just love that. But I was running one up in the main bedroom, and there's actually a picture I have hanging of Fred and Minnie. And I was pointing to the picture on the wall, and I was like, hey, if anybody's here, who's these people on the wall? And it plain as day, didn't have to tweak it out, anything. It says, you mean the Eckerts? So,
wow.
I mean, it's just like, that was crazy. So I always like to, people say, oh, that doesn't work. I'm like, okay, well, who's going to say this in the middle of nowhere on AM? I always run my stuff on AM. So it's like, it's just insane.
Yeah, I love the spirit box, and that's really impressive because obviously a big part of going into a location can be trying to figure out who's there, right? And
Right.
so that's really cool that the old owners have stepped forward and, willing to communicate and really make it known that, they're still in that location.
Oh yeah, and I think they like it, honestly. I think they like the company where people try to talk to them. I would say a majority of paranormal investigators are pretty respectful. They don't come in and be the taunting, like, "Come talk to me."
Yep.
Everybody just kind of seems like when you walk in, their comments are, "It's a very warm, inviting house." But you definitely know that something's definitely there. We just recently, we learned also that Fred was an avid fisher guy. And so I bought him, actually, I found a fishing reel at the lodge. I don't know why. But so I was like, oh, I'm going to take this to Fred. And then we found a little statue of a fish and then a picture of a fish. So we kind of put it all together. I wanted to do old tackle, but then I said, somebody's going to get their hand stuck on it. So we're not going to do old tackle. But, I put the REM pod on it. So usually when we give them gifts, we have like a little shrine of stuff. So the piano is kind of Fred's area. And so I just put the REM pod up there and I was like, Fred, if you like the fishy stuff today, just let us know. And we were eating dinner and then it started, to run going off. So then we came in and started talking, and I'm like, hey, do you like this stuff? Hit it again. And it would, like, right on command, like on cue. So I was like, good. I'm glad to see you like your gifts today. So
that's great.
Right on.
So what kind of challenges do you face running a haunted location?
Oh, there's a lot between a lot of emails and things like that, trying to keep up on that. I used to not have cameras in the house, and unfortunately I had to put those in due to some theft and some vandalism. So, some people ruin it for everyone. So unfortunately I had to do that because I couldn't trust. I guess some of the things I hate, like I have to put signs up for stupid stuff, and kind of like, I don't know. It just, those I think would be the challenges of some of what people do when they're in your home. So
yeah, just bringing so many different people in and
Right. So I think that would probably be the biggest challenge. But, like I said, most people are really respectful. Other than those few incidences, everybody's been really great and helpful too. Like, I'm not super duper close, so I don't get there as often as I'd want to. And, I'm not like an Airbnb, so I can't like get in there and clean all the time. But I'll have people message me, hey, we ran the vacuum for you, or we swept the floor, and, just stuff like that. And it's just so appreciative, that people just are so nice to do those kind of things. Or they'll say, oh, I noticed this was this, so I fixed it for you. It's
nice.
Just, that kind of stuff. So they look out for you. So
I think that's the coolest thing about the paranormal community is most of us and most groups are going to do that. Hey, we want to leave it just as good as we found it or better.
Right.
If it does look dirty, we're going to vacuum. We're going to, the place we were at, someone got scared and pushed through the barn door and broke the lock. So we went and bought the guy a new lock. We're like, here, we'll get you a new lock.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the good thing about all the, the paranormal community is we're really here to help others.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like I said, 98.9, 99.9 even, do really good. And then even like when I was getting ready to open the lodge, so many people just stepped forward and like, hey, if you need help, if you need anything, just, let us know. So it's really nice to see that, as they say, the pair unity coming together.
Well, so in the spirit of, and in the spirit of para-unity, and kind of talking about that, looking, I see the cost for an overnight is $225 for 8 people. That is almost unheard of anymore. For any sort of decent location. That's a problem we've run into is budget, right? Of, trying to find the big place to go for our yearly trip is, some of these places want $1,000 on up, to come in for a night. And that was one thing that just immediately stood out to me is the cost that you're asking to come in and, stay there for, I think it's 3 p.m. to noon the next day. You can go in and investigate.
Yep. I think that helps too with me being an investigator. Like I know, like, gosh, it does cost a lot. So, I'm not in it to make a ton of money. Obviously, I do it because I would like some money, but right now all the money goes back into the house, and then since I opened the lodge, half of that's going over to that too. So it's like, it's just all building restoration. I like I said, when I got the Boyd, I had to put a new roof on it. We just recently put new back stairs on it. We totally redid the inside. Things still break on it because it's an old house.
Yep.
So really, pretty much most of the donations or the reservations, which I consider donations, that all goes basically to renovating the house. So I'm not sitting here putting money in my pockets. And I'm not saying that's not what other business owners do, because I do know 90% or even more, they all put that money back into that building. But of course, you are going to get people who are in it just for the money ride too. So you're going to get people, bad people in any business. But I do know for all the ones that I know of, the really, big ones and things like that, they're all in it just for the building restoration and the love of the paranormal.
Yep.
Yeah. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and talk to you about the Masonic Lodge that you have.
Okay, perfect.
All right. So we're going to talk about our sponsor real quick. Twinkle Twinkle Little Store in downtown Cheyenne. 2 locations. They have the one down there. They have the one on Ridge. The one downtown is in the historic Tivoli. This weekend, they're doing their Day of the Dead celebration.
I saw that. That is so cool.
Yeah, pretty neat. Anyone that comes in painted up and wants to be in their pictures can do that. You're going to get to fill out a raffle ticket for some prizes. It's going to start at 10 a.m. on Friday and end at 6 p.m. on Saturday. And then you can bring in the food offerings or pictures of your loved ones, all that kind of stuff. So that's pretty cool that they're doing something like that.
Yeah, they're going to, I guess, have an altar set up where you can place that stuff for the Day of the Dead. So, yeah, pretty cool to see something like that in Cheyenne. You don't hear too much about that up in this area.
Right. Yeah. So Friday from 10 a.m. till Saturday at 6. Go down there and see them. Let them know that we mentioned them and sent you down there. We're going to bring Jill back, and we're going to talk about Jill's other location. I'm going to guess that once you have one, you might as well have the collection, right? Start a Monopoly board.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
So
that real estate.
You have the 1861. Am I correct? 1861 Masonic Lodge.
Correct.
Okay. And where's that located?
That's in Keithsburg, Illinois. So I was looking once I got kind of Boyd going and kind of happy, tucked away. I got antsy. I wanted another one, and I want another project to do. I wanted to try a bigger building. Of course, being in Illinois was not my first choice. But look at this building. Now, when I saw this building, I just said I had to have this building. So
that looks like a lot of work right there.
It is. It needs a lot of work. It does. But actually, she's had good bones, really, really solid. So we've been slowly working on it. We got everything cleaned off. We got all those vines off the side of the building now. We just painted the pillars this weekend. So yeah, we got to get a new roof and windows, but we need, we need more investigations into to get this process going.
So when did you purchase this?
I just got that September of last year. So we just opened May of 2024 for investigators to come in. So we've been having really, really good feedback from the people who have been there. Lots of different activity. When I bought it, well, first when I went and looked at it, I got a couple EVPs. One was "I'm watching you," and then I got a little kid that said "body," which I thought was weird to have kids. But what I found out after I bought it, it actually was the Arlington Hotel from the 1800s to the 1900s, and then it became the Masonic Lodge. So and then I also found that was a brothel hotel. So
interesting.
Yeah, so just a lot of different history I'm learning off of it. But interesting, the first week I was there just kind of opening and cleaning up and getting stuff done. One of the old master masons just happened to stop by once we did our introductions. His first words were, "Have you seen her?" And I said, "Seen who?" And he goes, "The woman." And I go, "Where?" And he goes, "She's upstairs. She roams the halls. I've seen her many, many times when I'm the only one in the building."
Oh, wow.
No, I haven't. And then I had another person come forward and say they had come into the lodge one day, walked through the dining area. There was a woman on her hands and knees scrubbing the floor. She said hello. She said hello back. She walked into the kitchen and said, "Who's scrubbing the floors?" And the people were like, "Nobody." And then they all walked out there and she wasn't there. So we
Wow,
do
that's amazing.
we do have a history, and a lot of the town people are coming forward telling stories. So it goes way back.
I think we would all love a cleaning ghost.
Yeah.
Right? It'd be wonderful.
I don't know where they are now. I just was there. I had to clean everything, so I don't know what they were doing.
So goal is to get a roof on that and get that stuff going. What do you rent that place out for?
That one I do 350, same hours, 3 p.m. till noon the next day.
Okay.
It's real primitive right now. We don't have heat, water, electricity, nothing like that. I do provide a porta potty available for people. We're seasonal, so we shut down now, and so we won't be open again until mid-April.
Okay.
Yeah. But my goal is to get the plumbing put in. I having a little snafu with some city stuff. And then I'm toying with electric. I don't know, because you know what? I'm getting some really good stuff with EMF stuff. And usually I'm kind of on the fence with it because there's so many other factors and things. But I tell you, when you get like tripwires going off, EMF detectors inside a china hutch next to Masonic items, when there's no power, I don't know how that happens.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I did have one experience too where I was the only one in the building because they all went next door to get coffee, and I had the tripwire laying all the way across in one, and I had gotten the Masonic book out and I was reading a prayer. I said, "Oh, let's all have a morning prayer." So I was reading this prayer, which was weird, and then so when I got done with that, all of a sudden the tripwire was going off one by one coming at me, and you could feel like this energy, or somebody, almost like someone was like step, 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 step coming towards you. You couldn't hear it, but you almost could feel that energy. Yep. And then when it got really close, then it like went through and went and touched my foot from underneath, almost like something electrically shocked me that I pulled my foot up off the floor. And that was weird. Like I have never had that happen. So
do you think it could be from maybe like a non-Mason, reading one of the Masonic books that maybe spurred a response to that? Or
it could have been, like I said, I had read a prayer from one of the Masonic books. I don't know what it was really for. So I just was like, well, let's let me read this prayer. So yeah. So maybe, he could have been mad about that. Maybe it could have been somebody crabby from the hotel. We're just learning, who's there, why they're there. We've had interaction with children. We've had females there. They did share this lodge with the Eastern Star, which is the female version of the Masons. So it's not unusual to have women in this building. We did even find like a little tick. I was hoping I'd find more stuff, but somebody bought it before I bought it. So it was a couple years. He didn't do anything with it. So I didn't really find a lot of cool items, but I did find a little ticket for a play that they had. So I found that. I framed that. I found a lot of the skeleton keys. Somebody recently found a deck of cards in the rafter. They're pretty well worn and eaten, from years past. So I don't know how they're not like ancient, they're just like your typical poker, but why are they up in the rafters, in the crawl space? So it's like, so yeah, I think that's probably all I found that looked really original. I'm sure maybe eventually I'll find more stuff too. So
that's pretty interesting. I think I was listening to you on another podcast talking about playing cards with a spirit.
That was at the Boyde.
Blackjack at the Boyde?
Yeah, that was at Boyde House. Yeah.
And they like to play blackjack.
Oh my gosh, they love cards. Well, we learned Minnie liked to play cards and gamble. That was like, she loved that. And I got the idea, another paranormal team did it. They used the K2 meter to play 21. And so I thought, well, I'm going to give it a try. So you just have them, hit the K2 if you want to hit or not. Even, you have the cards up so you can see what the numbers are because you got to play it that way. But I tell you what, they're like dead on. because they're like, you want to hit you, and they'll the yes or no. So they're pretty good at playing. And actually, at one point, I thought I'm going to run the spirit box while we do this too. And so I don't know, whatever hand they had. I said, well, this is pretty good. You want to stay? You want to split? What do you want to do here? And then just plain as day goes, we'll stay. So,
Oh, wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So,
after listening to that, I'm like, I'm putting a deck of cards in our stuff.
Yep.
Because out here we have a
Absolutely.
lot of those old, it's old West out here. So yeah, I'm like,
of course,
we're putting a deck of cards in our arsenal of stuff.
yeah, we use a lot of props. We've even dressed up the parts. We've gone to hospitals dressed as doctors, nurses. We've done jails. We dress up in jail outfits. Yeah, we just like to play I've even done nuns. So it's like, I don't think they bought that though. They're like these two girls. No,
Definitely not. Nope.
Oh, so you said spirit box is your favorite piece of equipment?
Yeah, I love the spirit box. We recently not recently, maybe a couple of years now, been doing the Estes method a lot. And I tell you, people, if you go to our YouTube channel for St. Croix Paranormal, and I tell you, our teammate Teresa is the Estes queen. I've watched a lot of other people's Estes, and they're good, but hers is like having a conversation like you and I are, and sometimes up to an hour. And it's completely insane. It's just talking back and forth, answering questions. If I get up to do something, or even if I've yawned, she'll say, where are you going? Or if I yawn, she's like, no yawning, it's too early. At the lodge, it's my lodge, so I'll have a drink and they'll say like, what are you drinking? It's just insane. In fact, my husband said it's eerily unnatural of what she can do. So I think a lot of them tap actually into her, because if children are talking, they'll call her talk lady. And I even had one that says, oh, look at me, I'm inside talk lady. So it's just kind of just like, I don't know. It's weird. And she'll take on the mannerisms almost of who she's talking to. Or whatever, if she's a child, sometimes she'll be all like antsy and slumped over it. And then you can always tell when something new, because she'll like maybe sit back and all of a sudden, she'll get real stern or real, and it's just so crazy, the stuff that she can come up with. So we did at the lodge. That's where we had that little kid, Cody, come through. He didn't really say why he was here. But he said he had his friend there, and I said, oh, what's wrong with your friend? And he said, he's hot like fire. So to me, that's the kid had a fever. And then he said, and he's got sores on him, is what he said. So I don't know, chickenpox, whatever might have back in the day. So there's a possibility of that. That's what was going on. But it was just really interesting to just have that conversation. And then he specifically asked for some toys, so we ended up having to bring him a bunch of stuff. So.
We did just add that link into the comments to the St. Croix Paranormal YouTube channel.
Yeah.
While we're here talking to you, Gina is running the comments and put that in there for us.
Great.
So people can go over there and check that out.
Yeah, a lot of really good stuff happens in there. We actually, the first time my whole team came and spent the night at the lodge, we were Teresa was in the kitchen, and and the rest of us were just in I call it the dining hall, and we had the door shut because it was kind of winter, so we had a propane tank going, and all of a sudden I heard this loud bam, and I was like, did she just drop the cooler on the floor? Because that's how loud it sounded. And again, we don't have anything really at the lodge. We just have some chairs to sit on. So we don't have a lot of things. Nothing's really going to fall over. And she comes busting through the door. She's like, oh my God, something just slammed something behind me. And so we went in there, we looked, we didn't see anything on the floor. We kind of looked around. So of course, now you got to try to figure out what it is. So what we ended up coming up with is it was one of the cabinet doors. So if we opened it and slammed it, it was that same sound. And, we even went back in the room and we're like, okay, slam it. And it was exactly what it was. Later on, doing an Estes session, they said it was a spirit. I can't remember his name now, but they said he likes to play jokes and he thought it was funny.
Oh, nice.
Oh, those jokesters.
Yeah.
Watch out for them. Those Mason guys.
Oh yeah.
They're jokesters.
I would do that if I was a ghost. I'd be like, hey, watch this.
Right.
Right.
Let's see how many we can get to run. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely going to be the jokester in the afterlife. Oh.
Yeah, it's a fun place. Like I said, we're just touching the tip of the iceberg on what's going on there, who's there, why. But like I said, I know a lot of people are getting, a ton of equipment interaction, EVPs. People have seen shadows. I think somebody's actually seen an apparition. Not everybody tells me what's going on. I kind of hear some, things through the grapevine. Sometimes if I'm at a convention, people say things. I did just come back from there and I grabbed we have a little guest book that people can write in their stories and stuff. And I just been super busy. I haven't had a chance to read it, but I'm looking so forward to sitting down and reading and seeing what people have had to experience at the lodge. And, I got one at the Boyde house too. So I love it when people send me, their videos, their evidence. If I know if you tell me your paranormal team, I will pop on Facebook every once in a while if you're doing a live feed, because I just like to see what's going on. I'm not one that's going to pop in on my own cameras, and that's a violation for me. Those basically are in play for me to look at later if I find damage. So, because I frankly don't have time to watch what everybody else is doing.
Yep.
How far apart are your locations?
I'm not sure. I think they're probably a good 5-6 hours apart, because the Boyde house is southwest Minnesota. So it's about 145 miles southwest of the Twin Cities. We're about an hour from Brookings, South Dakota, where the lodge is more of, I think they call it northern Illinois, but I feel like it's more southern because it's only 3 hours from St. Louis, Missouri. But it's kind of nicely located because we're only like an hour and a half from Davenport, Iowa. So, it's just kind of a nice, great location. Like even people in Indiana, Wisconsin, you can totally be under 4 hours to get there. So,
yeah, that'd be like probably 12 hours for us.
Yeah, that'd be a long haul for you guys.
We're stuck out here in the West. Get our same places all the time.
Yep.
But yeah, it's a good time. Let's see. You got another question there for Jason?
So it sounds like you've done a lot of traveling, around the U.S. as we talked about previously. Is there any place you haven't gone to yet that you plan to in the future?
Well, there's a couple on my bucket list. There's that I think it's Pine Lawn Manor that recently opened up. That's in Sumner, Illinois. I think they opened up last year. It's not real well known, but it's an old nursing home. So that would be a real fun one to do. And then the other one I'd like to do is the Old South Pittsburgh Hospital in Tennessee. So I'd really like to. I actually got married in Tennessee, and I was like, how far is it? Just turn the old honeymoon into let's go ghost hunting. But we didn't get to go. It was a little too far, and we just didn't have time with all the activities planned. But I really want to get back out there. And Teresa wants to do like a throwback summer one time, and just everybody pick one of their favorite places, and we go back to that particular location. So
that'd be cool.
Nice.
Yeah. Because I was always like, I don't want to go back. I want to go somewhere new. It's always new. I don't want to, although I've been to Edinburgh a bunch of times. We've been to Villisca a couple times, Whispers Estate a couple times. But for the most part, it's usually a one and done. There was a place that got torn down in Indiana called Revenant Acres. And if that had not gotten torn down, we totally would have went back. It was an amazing place. So
that's the thing, the places that we go into as paranormal investigators, a lot of them are those older buildings, and they're a little decrepit. And if you can't get the money to start renovating it and bring it back, then unfortunately, we're going to lose some of those really good places.
Right. And I know, like too, with the lodge, I know a couple of people have come forward and they said, because they all know in town, it's a small town of like 600 people, so everybody knows everybody, but they were like really glad to, I don't think maybe some of them don't like the ghost stuff, but they like the fact that what I'm doing is going to be putting money back into the building. I've had several people stop by and say, I'm so glad that you're doing it. I don't want to see this building go. I don't want to see it get torn down. It was the second building built in that town ever. So
wow.
it's been there a really, really long time. So, and it's just cool, and the town people are cool. Everybody, I just love the town so much. They're so friendly. It's just a great place.
So they're pretty comfortable with people coming in and doing investigations there then, other teams?
Yeah, at first it was weird. They would stop and talk to them like, what are you guys doing? They were real curious. I think they're starting to know a little bit more of what's going on. We are actually going to do a couple events here. We have one in May and then one in June. So we haven't actually officially announced it yet because we got to get the ticket things and all this stuff in sale. So we do have a couple public events coming up, and then we're going to do one or two at the Boyde House this year as well, which I haven't done before. So this whole event thing is all new for me, so it's a lot of learning and just trying to figure out and stuff. So I'm hoping we can.
A lot of coordination, yeah.
It is, but you know what? I like it. It's so much fun. It just gives me something to do. And, I work full time as well, but, this is just my passion and I just love doing it.
We just put those links in the comments and I was told it wasn't Gina that did that. So Jason's got to be doing that.
Yep.
Yeah. Correction there. Yeah. There's the links to the Masonic Temple and to the Boyde House. When you were talking about your annual trips or your trips to places, Debbie Cushman, the Cushmans are over in Virginia, Wytheville, Virginia. They have the Octagon Mansion, and John has a large collection of Civil War stuff. They're like, come out there for your trip.
Oh, that'd be cool. That'd be very cool.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool place. Yeah, I was talking about the people coming in and the townspeople liking that. The place we went to in Kansas, we felt that they weren't sure about us. We stayed there in Airbnb and we went to buy the food for the weekend. And when the four of us went walking into the grocery store, I believe I did hear like across the loudspeaker, like, watch them.
Yeah, you could hear the needle scratch across the record in that place when we walked into the store. It was hilarious.
Yeah, we walked around and then we were checking out with our food and come to find out the gal at the checkout grew up like 50 miles from us down the road in Colorado. And she's like, oh, well, I'm from Fort Collins. And then she became real chatty. But yeah, it was pretty funny when we walked in because all the heads kind of turned like, who are these people in our town?
Yeah. And you get that too. You get it at both places, probably more so at Boyde because that one actually only has like 165 people in there.
So, oh, wow. It's all there. Yeah.
So do they know that, does the town people of Boyde know that you rent that out to paranormal teams?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
On there?
Yeah, I think they've accepted it, but I can say we got 50% are like, hey, yeah, I've stayed there. This is what's happened when I was a kid. And the other half are like, it's not haunted. So it's like, you get both. It's more of an older town as far as like the average age is like 50 and up. So it's not like a lot of young families or anything like that. So yeah, they're kind of on the fence with it, but they know what we do. But there's a restaurant in town, so some people come in and they'll get to talk, and so they are friendly with them. It's not like they're like, oh,
right. Well, that's good. I just want to say thanks again for having a couple of affordable places for teams. Yes. When you add in travel and then for us that's going to be a 12-hour drive, so it's another stay somewhere.
Right.
Thanks for having those affordable places out there.
Oh yeah, like I said, I try to make it. I want to do it too, where because the cheaper you have it. Now, of course, I got to make money. I gotta pay the bills.
Course, right.
I got that kind of stuff, but I want people to be able to come. And like you said, if those $1,000 places, not everybody can afford that. It's a lot. I can't even, really. We did it for Waverly, but oh my God, that was Waverly. You had to do that.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I've looked at that and like Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary, Tennessee.
Right.
I would love to go to Brushy Mountain, but $1,500.
Yeah, that's a lot. And well deserved for those big giant places for sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally.
You're hiking all night. Yeah.
Yeah, I like to do things for people, as far as, the cost, the time, because that's a big factor too, especially, you come in, you got all that equipment to set up, and then you got to eat, and then you're up half the night. Now, the ones that like where you got to leave at like 4 in the morning, 6 in the morning. Now everybody's tired. I'd rather have you come, get a couple hours sleep, drive home safe,
Yep.
Nobody lives there, so it's not like I need you out at so that's why I just do noon, because it gives plenty of time for people to get up and stuff and get motivated. And I just try to make it. Plus, at the Boyd house, we make it really cozy. I provide snacks, which my husband got on me about it till everybody commented about the snacks. So
That's
I
great.
feel my wife would do something like that too. She's make sure everyone's always fed at our events. We make sure that we have snacks and we have drinks and
yeah. It started off with just some coffee and just like one or two things, and now it's like I got a giant cabinet full of stuff because
That's awesome.
They gotta have cookies, they gotta have chips, they gotta have Slim Jims and Laffy Taffy, and they gotta so yeah.
Yep.
See,
Gina said snacks.
Snacks. Yeah. She also, when we do our VIP experiences with smaller groups, we usually end up doing pizza. She works for nutrition services for our school district locally. And the first thing she's, does anyone have any allergies?
Yep.
So she makes sure that everyone's covered.
Right.
She's our hospitality person.
There
Yes,
you go.
the hospitality director of Way Out West Paranormal.
See, she knows how it's going. She's got that snack.
She does.
Yep, she's on it.
Well, Jill, it's been great having you on. We look forward to hopefully getting out that way and
Yeah, I'd love to have
checking
you
out the lodge and checking out the Boyd house. It'd be cool to have a long weekend and maybe hit one night and then drive the hours to the next one.
Yeah, there you go.
And
make a road trip out of it.
Definitely. We would have to coming from where we are, but yeah, it's they sound like amazing places.
Yeah, they are fun. You definitely get to experience that one or the other for sure.
So thanks for coming on. And maybe once you get the Masonic Lodge, the water in there and get some more people through and you kind of know who's in there, we'll have you back on and talk about the lodge again.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I would love to.
All right. Well, thanks, Jill.
Yeah, thanks
All
for
right.
having me.
Those sound like a couple of great places, and we probably need to add them to our list.
Yep, to our ever lengthening list of locations. So
yeah, get to sit and play blackjack at the Boyd house. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I think that'd be great. Yeah, we definitely need to look at heading out there.
So, all right. Well, we thank everyone for jumping on tonight and asking your questions and joining us on the Paranomalies podcast. And we will see you next week. Next week, we have Crystal Blevins. An
investigator, podcaster, very accomplished woman in the field. So looking forward to getting her on and talking with her.
Yep. Everyone have a good night.
All right. Thanks, everybody. The Paranomalies podcast would like to thank Twinkle Twinkle Little Store, located in Cheyenne, Wyoming, for sponsoring our show.